Good evening and welcome. Thank you for attending the regular council meeting of Monday, March 4th of 2024 in person and online. First, I'd like to open with offering my deepest condolences and respect to Brian Mulroney's family and friends. The flags were lowered and will be so until the memorial service as per protocol. I'd like to note as well that the Legion Canadian flag was already lowered in memory of G. Ray Anderson, who died on Wednesday. He was a longtime resident of Hudson and a veteran of the World War II with the RAF. Also, I am reminded that this is a busy period at Town Hall, as the first installment of this year's municipal taxes is due on March 21st, and also the town is presently processing a high number of requests for information. Since the start of the year, the town has received 32 requests. For comparison, in 2019, there were 89 requests in all received for the full year. And last year, in 23, there were 78. So this goes to show that there is an unusually large number of requests presently being processed by the town. Requests for information requiring research in the town's archives or for the answer of the technical team are to be sent in through the clerk's office. The email address is provided on the town's website under the Access to Information tab under Services in the town clerk's office. Additional details are also provided on the webpage there. It is important to clearly list or describe the documents that you are asking for and to provide your contact information and signature. Please note that some information may not be released as per the limitations provided in the law. Requests are processed in the order in which they come in, and at this time will take several days and possibly weeks to be processed. In this sense, while the person at the reception counter may not always have an immediate answer to your question, please consider that respect and courtesy are essential, whether in person, by email, or by telephone. Please help us ensure that the town of Hudson's working environment remains courteous, patient, and respectful. With regards to the interim controls measures for the protection of natural areas of interest in trees, as per my letter dated February 17th, 2024, posted on my mayor's Facebook page and on the town's website, and also sent to each Hudson address last week. I'd like to thank you for your active and generous participation. The period of consultation to better preserve natural areas of interest in trees is now closed, of course. Nearly 800 written responses were received through the online portal and in paper form. And as you can expect, through the sheer number of people who attended the Open Doors events, the public dialogue evening, and the quality of the responses received, it is clear that Hudson not only cares about environmental protection, but also about how this is achieved. Your comments are the substance from which the next phase of the process will be generated. Council will receive the consultation report, including the consolidation of your comments, on March 8th this week. Following the receipt of this report, there will be a series of working sessions involving the Council and Town's technical team during March and April. Providing the working sessions progress well and are conclusive, the results will be presented to the public on April 24th of 2024, with an adoption of the final bylaws during the regular council meeting of May 6th, 2024. The process from draft adoption on January 10th to final adoption expected on May 6th of 24 will have taken almost 4 months. In the meantime, we continue to focus on key files, including the upcoming public presentation on March 11th by RCGT, so this is Raymond, Chabot, Grant, Thornton, the experts mandated in 23 to prepare the town's financial portrait and projections for 23 to 28. And the CMQ, so the Commission Municipale du Québec's completion of the performance audit on surplus and reserves management of 3 municipalities of comparable size and consideration. This report was presented to Council by the CMQ last Monday and will be tabled this evening. With regards to the CMQ audit, as I mentioned, it provides the review and suggestions on best practices with regards to reserves and surplus management. I invite you to take a look at this report, and please approach Council or the town if you have any questions on this report. With regards to the RCGT financial portrait, as mentioned, the presentation will be next Monday here at 7:30. The presentation will be in English and will be recorded for later viewing. The report will be translated into English and will be made available. This report, titled L'analyse historique 2018 to 22 and projections of 2023 to 2028, provides the Town and Council with trends and targets to meet while looking to keep cost increases around 3.5% per year, with continued investment in assets and infrastructure, while aiming to keep debt load within the means of Hudson's property owners' capacity to bear the burden of increasing property values and costs of services. This report is a decisional and management tool, providing targets to better manage the increase of costs and interest rates over the next 5 years. With regards to the master plan for parks and green spaces, as mentioned last month, the town has gone out to public tender on February 1st. The tender period was extended to mid-March to provide sufficient time for more firms to submit their proposals. If all goes well, the resolution for contract award is expected next month. Coming up in the town in terms of events, the St. Patrick's Parade will take place on Saturday, March 16th, starting at 1 p.m. at the corner of Côte St. Charles and Main. Please expect street closures along Main and also parking on one side of the streets in the downtown core. The parade will be followed by a family after party from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the community center, where hot drinks will be served. There will be music and coloring stations for children. You can also have your photo taken with the parade's queen and court, the Queen Veronica Gilmore, Princess Shaunissa Boyle, and Vanessa Mooney, and Addie de Rouen. Also, the Penske 2024 St. Patrick Irish Festival will take place between March 8th to 16th. A list of events is available online, where there will be, on successive evenings, events running at Alibi Lounge, Cardinal Brewing, at Embers Restaurant. You're also invited to attend the Soulange Irish Society's Grand Marshal Roast and Toast on Saturday, March 9th at 6 p.m. at the Whitlock Golf and Country Club, and the Penske Sis breakfast with the Grand Marshal Brian Greenway at McGibbon's on Friday, March 15th from 8 to 10 a.m. Also, please note that this year, the 2024 Irish Woman of the Year is Kim Sullivan. She is a longtime weather specialist on TV with extensive radio experience as well. With regards to the Ile-de-Tourte Bridge Lane closure, there were no meetings organized by the ministry with mayors of the area since January, so no new information has been received. With regards to the mitigation measures, those currently in place will continue, where presently two-way passes are handed out at the 5 stations which are off-island. And as a reminder, please, train users must activate their pass before getting on the train, as there will be agents deployed to check that train tickets have been validated. At this time, there are still 3 train departures and 3 train arrivals in Hudson. The trains leaving on weekday mornings are at 6:13, 7 a.m., and 7:33, and these are returning in the evening from Monday to Friday, leaving Lucien Lallier at 4:40, 5:20, and 6:05, arriving at 6:03, 6:43, and 7:26. Please note that as of April 1st, the train will start and stop at Vendôme Station, as EXO is planning repairs scheduled for the Lucien Lallier station. Gratuity for bus services in the Vaudreuil-Soulange region remains, as does the toll gratuity heading east during peak hours on weekday mornings from 5:30 to 9:30 a.m. Also, ongoing work, as mentioned last month, where the ministry is working hard to return to the dynamic management of the 3 lanes as rapidly as possible, and aiming for the dynamic management of the 5 lanes by the end of the year. With regards to committees, there were no meetings of the Demolition Committee this month, or last month. This evening, you will note for the renewal of the committee members this evening at item 3.4. With regards to TPAC files, there are 3 files this month, 1 major renovation, 1 accessory building, and the return of 1 commercial sign that was presented last January. There is also the renewal of 1 member of TPAC. With regards to other advisory committees, there's the Environment Committee. I don't know, Mark, if you would like to provide a rapid update.
Just, we have our new environmental technician, Sofia Fuga, who's, we've had our first sort of full-fledged meeting with her, with me at the helm, getting started, which is a big welcome change for us. So I expect to see lots of great things coming forward out of the Environment Committee with her help.
Thank you, Mark. With regards to the Circulation Committee, Reid or Benoit, would you like to give an update?
We didn't meet this month. We continue to work on Mount Pleasant and addressing the parking lot in front of Treehouse and beside the manoir. With spring coming, we know that there's definitely going to be some concern with speeding on Bellevue, so that's at the top of our list, and we'll be discussing that to see what we can do to improve that situation this summer. And if you have any concerns or anything that you'd like to bring to the attention of the Circulation Committee, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. With regards to the Seniors Committee, I have here the report from Laura McCaffrey. So, as a reminder, the Seniors Committee was born out of the MATA policy and began meeting in November of 2022. Members are Hudson seniors who are passionate about improving the lives of Hudson seniors. In 2023, the projects included organizing of a monthly speaker series geared to seniors and their caregivers, the creation and mail out of postcards inviting residents to sign up to the automated calling system, participation in Hudson Day, forging of partnership with the MWCN, which is the Montérégie West Community Network, and Carrefour Bienveillance 50+, formerly the Grand Rassemblement des Aînés de Vaudreuil-Soulanges, and the creation of the email newsletter for seniors. In 2024, the projects include highlight volunteers and volunteer-run community groups through monthly write-ups on social channels, create events to promote exchanges between seniors and youth, establish collaborative agreements with professionals such as pharmacists to promote health and social services in the community, host a seniors fair on October 5th for National Seniors Day, the creation and distribution of an emergency contact numbers card, organizing of a half-day document shredding event. The upcoming events are on March 13th and 20th, the importance of wills and testaments with notaries Heather Trott and Olivia Lamontagne. On April 10th and 17th, the Carrefour Bienveillance 50+, a group whose mission is to break isolation and to develop and maintain the power to act of seniors 50 and over. And in May, internationally renowned Dr. Serge Gauthier will talk about Alzheimer's disease. And Benoit is our representative on that committee. With regards to the Cultural Policy Committee, the 4th meeting was held on February 13th of 2024. Reid and I attended. Also, Esther Habitaille has joined the town's team as an expert, external expert, so just for the purpose of the writing or the preparation, the elaboration of this cultural policy. She has experience in writing municipal cultural policies and will help with the production and the writing of documents and to restore the pace of work and possibly make up for lost time. Our anticipated delivery for this policy is before the end of 2024. Also, the Hudson Arts and Culture Council met on Saturday, February 24th of 2024. Reid and I also attended. Did you want to give a summary on that?
The committee continues to work on refining the survey results of the survey that was presented to the town last year. The work continues. It's a lot of data that has to be sifted through, and then once that's done, basically combining the French and English results into one cohesive report that will be presented to council. So they're making really good progress, and we look forward to seeing the results of this.
We've seen a draft of, I'd say about 75% of the results, and it's extremely interesting. We look forward to sharing that with the public as well.
Yep.
The report will serve as a valuable tool and data for the elaboration of the cultural policy, but also for other decisions and plans to come, such as the master plan for parks and green spaces, as many answers and questions dealt with the park. With regards to meetings with the mayor, the next meeting will take place on Saturday, March 9th, so that's next Saturday from 10 to noon. These take place at Halcrow Cottage, which is at 539 Main. And please note that the April 2024 Coffee with the Mayor will not take place, as I will be away. With regards to meetings with districts, I believe that Darren Legault is looking to schedule one on March 21st of 2024. The location will soon be confirmed. At this time, we expect that it will be at St. James Church as long as the hall is available. And if it is not, it otherwise will be moved to Halcrow Cottage. Please keep a lookout on the town's website and the weekly bulletin or in the town's Facebook feed for more information. With regards to tonight's agenda, I was going to say that Peter and I will be recusing ourselves from item 3.8, but it'll just be me. I will be recusing myself from item 3.8, which is 468, 470 Main, the exemption for parking. During the presentation of this resolution, our Pro-Mayor Reid Thompson will be chairing the meeting. So that is it. That completes for my opening word. Moving on to the adoption of, I'd like to remind you that the town council meetings is filmed. So when you come to the microphone, just be aware that you are on camera. With regards to adoption of the agenda, item 1.1, this resolution is that the agenda of the regular council meeting of March 4th of 2024 be and hereby adopted as submitted. Do I have a mover? Oh, en français. Sorry, Marc.
Alors, le point 1. Point 1, adoption de l'ordre du jour. Alors, la présente résolution vise à adopter l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 4 mars 2024, soit adopté tel que soumis.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Mark Gray, seconded by Reid Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand.
Sorry, it's proposed by Mark.
C'est Marc et ensuite Reid.
Parfait, merci.
Je vais ralentir un petit peu. So online we have 7 people, and in the room it's filling up. We have, I'm doing a very rapid 14, I was going to say 12, so 14, and only 2 or 3 spouses. So the proportions are much better this month, thank you. Section 2, confirmation of minutes, item 2.1, confirmation of the meeting of the February 5th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. This resolution is that the minutes of council meeting held on February 5th of 2024 be and is hereby approved as submitted. En français.
Section 2, approbation des procès-verbaux. La présente résolution vise à adopter le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 5 février 2024, que ce soit approuvé par les présentes tel que soumis.
Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Yes, it's a train. Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Moving now to the first question period. So I remind you that we usually alternate between the room and online, and simply confirm that you are a Hudson resident, and that will be fine. You can probably lower it.
Hi.
Hello.
Carol Ann Mills from Hemlock. I do want to say this is our first in-person meeting, so thank you so much. It's interesting to see you all from this angle. Thank you to the people who always make our Zoom calls come through. Just a quick, I just wanted to say, I think we've all been a little surprised at the situation that the government, the provincial government, is aware of now with regards to what's happening with our municipal governments and the volatility that a number have been facing. I think France Bellil's resignation took us all a bit by surprise. Today on CJAD we heard interview take place with Tim Thomas of Point Claire as well. We can only hope that our residents of Hudson do not put you in such a volatile situation, but I just wanted to say, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much for all of you being here, everyone here as well. Thank you.
You're very kind. Thank you, Caroline. You have been one of our steadiest attendees, and even if you're not always in person, I do see you at the Coffee with the Mayor, and any ad hoc meeting that I've ever called, you've attended. I see you walking your older dog at Sandy Beach as well. So thank you for your investment, for your commitment, and for your kind words. It's not always been easy, obviously, but we understand that we have to make sometimes some difficult presentations and proposals to you. So it is great that there is such an active participation in Hudson. And as I have said in the past, please be assured that we are listening. We are definitely listening, and there will be many, many more opportunities for all of you to be heard. And do come to the Coffees with the Mayor and come to any district meeting. We are really here to serve you. So thank you. Yes. I'm just going to check if online, can someone raise a hand and just show me that it works? This is something Caroline had suggested I do. So even if you don't have a question, just raise it and lower it so I can see that it works. Yes, thank you. So it works, and there are no questions online, so please come to the microphone.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
First thought, very quickly, I wanted to congratulate you on how well that coffee with the mayor went. I brought my own coffee, but...
and your own chair.
And yeah, I did bring my own chair. But no, the ability to have the interaction and address the questions in a smaller group, and I see a couple people here were there. So again, I want to thank you very much for doing that, and I encourage that you continue, if we can, to do that, because I think it's a good forum to address questions. So I've got two questions.
Please go ahead.
So my first question, Jim Duff, at the when we had the meeting with the whatever you call it, the environmental and then the other part of it, he raised a comment that there was an $8 million surplus in the town of Hudson's budget. And that got me thinking afterwards. And it comes down to money, but basically each household, doing the numbers, if we were to cut $4 million off that and rebate it back in some way or the other, I've actually got a couple thoughts on that, that would average about $2,065 per person. Now, some households would be as high as $5,000 given their value, and some would be lower. But given the economic difficulties that people go through, I think considering a way to do a rebate back to people, I think would be a good idea. Just a general comment is that when we pay municipal tax and school tax, we pay it net of gross tax that we pay from the federal and provincial government. So for example, I guesstimated that for me to pay my municipal and my school tax cost me $25,000 of federal and provincial tax. So anyhow, I had a quick thought on that. If we cannot arrange to give people or households an individual check, then perhaps we could initiate a rebate program. A rebate program in the sense of encouraging them to fix up their houses, and knowing that for every certified fix-up they do, for example, if they do their roof, the town will pay $2,000 or whatever amount of money towards that, and that would accomplish two things. That would be a way of giving some of the money back to the household owners, but it would also stimulate businesses. And I was out at the Castle store today and talking with them, and so I think certain companies, and it's not just the hardware stores, because as you know, one of the comments back is that the bars and the young people get all the money in the discotheques, so whatever. So this would be a way of reimbursing places like Castle, but also contractors and workers who live here in Hudson, because this would stimulate a lot of people to start to fix their houses up. And this gets to the second part, but our houses are our principal investment. And so if we can keep them in top shape, when it comes time to sell it, we can maximize our value. And as you know, that's all tax-free money. So, so that is something that I'd like the council to think about. And I think it would create a win-win.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I do encourage you to come to next week's meeting by our CGT, because it is exactly about what do we do with that unaffected surplus. And it was our concern coming in when we saw that it was close to 8 million, a little bit over. What do we do? How do we invest this? What is the best thing to do with it? And so, as you know, Hudson has a deficit in infrastructure and maintenance as well of buildings and assets. So this being a non-recurrent amount, it's sort of a one-time off. To use it for just a rebate may be a good answer, a good way to go for it, but we will not have this opportunity again in the near future. So we would like to put it towards buildings. It is our proposal, but again, you're welcome to look to give us ideas and what we can do with it. But I do encourage you to come on Monday. And also a point that was interesting in that CMQ's audit that they did of towns like ours, one of the items that came up was that in Quebec, over the last years, the amounts accumulated of a surplus have been in the order of $1.3 billion for municipalities less than 10,000 residents. So that's 30% of these municipalities have surpluses and reserves, which represent 50% of the operating revenues. So that's our case, right? 8 million is approximately half of an annual budget, which is an awful lot, and it was only accumulated over a few years through subsidies in the COVID period where services were cut. What we did do with this year's budget is that we used a portion of that money to reduce or to keep taxes lower than they could have been, because we recognized that there were services that hadn't been given to the residents in 2023 from positions that weren't filled and so on. So I find your proposal interesting. Maybe it would be a program that would go towards inciting people to upgrade their homes or to maintain their homes. But to say that the full 8 million would go to that, I think, unfortunately, would be missing out on this opportunity.
Yeah, and I wouldn't see the full 8 million, because you'll still yield some money. And I agreed with your comment on Pine Lake, because we're in the same mindset on that. I wouldn't want to see money on that. But no, a partial rebate would be a way to stimulate people to fix their homes, because we tend to procrastinate. I'm guilty of that. And if all of a sudden that within the next year, 12 months or whatever, they have an opportunity to get X amount of money, provided it's on a project the town approves, it's designed to fix up their property and et cetera. And I think a most common one is roofs. I see a lot of roofs that could be used. Right. I know I have to work in my basement. So it would be nice to encourage people. So anyhow, I agree, and it's up for discussion, but it would be nice, and it would be a win-win if you did it that way.
Thank you.
Okay, the second question, and this is just a bit of a observation. There were a number of societies, and you talked about this, that the town had made donations to, and you know, they ranged in quite a variety of money. And so, and I appreciate the thought that in the future, the town will assess those funds. But the other thought came to me, well, we had terminated the financial coordinator, or whatever that person was.
The treasurer.
The treasurer. So, and we never knew why she was terminated. So part of the thought process is, oh, it's like the lady we had a few years back. She probably got caught embezzling money. Or part of it could be she caught somebody else embezzling money. So the point is, we don't really know.
So as I mentioned last month when I informed the public of this termination, I assure you that it had nothing to do with financial means, and it was not related to embezzlement or fraud or any financial malversation, so misappropriation of funds. Is that a good term? It really was not related to finances.
But do we have, and pardon, you know, do we have a third party who can officially verify that? Because, you know, you guys do a wonderful job, but, you know, next to Joe Biden and his crime family, you hear these stories all the time, Trudeau and everybody. And so it would just be nice that if there's an official third party, someone from the province, somebody from somewhere who would be responsible that we would ultimately report to, who could just verify what you said.
So every year the town goes through a verification process where we are not necessarily audited but verified that we conform to the processes and reporting procedures, and this will start in the next few months, I believe. But we do that annually. All municipalities do that annually. We also have had the CMQ comb through our material for the last, might say, 2 to 3 years at least, to be able to understand where the reserves and the surpluses come from. They certainly would have noticed if there had been any issues, and some do pop up. If you read the report, they are underlining items that came up, I think, in 2014 and suggested on how that could have been, managed differently. So we are often, if you want, reviewed in terms of process, and we hope to have a treasurer in place as soon as possible. This was certainly not our first choice for that person to be let go rapidly, but it was important to do so on the spot, and we look forward to working with a new person.
Okay. Well, again, I just wanted to, because there's a potential, $8,000, what really struck me was the Irish like to drink, and I appreciate that. But that's an awful lot of whiskey.
Exactly.
So, and I'm being facetious when I say that. But it varied by groups, and in fact, I was just talking to Helen about, I want to start a Japanese garden group. So it's, there's only 2 of us I know in town. But it's interesting, and it's a lot of money, a lot of groups, and it would be nice to be able to manage that and just make sure everything's on the up.
The nonprofit organizations, the subsidies, you mean?
Well, actually, that's another one, a nonprofit. Again, if anybody's been to Kennebunkport and Ogunquit and you walk along the marginal way to Perkins Cove and you see all those benches with people's names on them, and it's probably $10,000 a bench, but they're all tax-free donations that people make, and that's marginal way that doesn't have to be paid for out of taxes. So that's a thought too. In fact, the Historic Society, I don't know if that is a tax-free, but that would be a thought too for us to consider.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so anyhow, thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much.
Thank you. There are no questions online.
Good evening, everyone. Steve Farrell, Butternut.
Hello, Steve.
I briefly took a look at the CMQ report online today. It's certainly not a glaring report, not on the positive side anyways. I'd like to have your comment as to, was it expected? Was it a shock?
I think it was expected, considering that we did have an $8.3 million surplus at the time, and I think it's still around there, 8.5. So of course that's going to raise red flags, so that was expected. After that, in terms of on the spot, my first thought was, is this because someone complained or wanted to signal or flag something that was unusual? And very quickly in our first discussions with the CMQ, they said, no, not at all. This is really us sort of using our standard metrics. And the purpose of the CMQ, if you've noticed other reports that are online, is that they are regularly reviewing on multiple processes, whether it is how a budget is created, how a PTI is created. And it's their mandate every quarter or so to take on an audit, and they usually pick 3 towns. They only do towns that are under 100,000 in terms of residents. And so we had the situation that essentially provided them the matter to be able to pull together best procedures to be used by all municipalities. So we were sort of one of the examples on what could be done better and should be done better if we want to be planning and managing our money better.
I understand that, and that's what they're saying, to put in more procedures.
Correct.
However, it couldn't have been a surprise. I mean, even myself.
I just said
over
it
the
was
last
not a
few years, I
surprise
mean,
at
I've been
8.3
asking,
million.
I've been highlighting to you
Correct.
and council the kind of money and even the huge cash balances that have been there. Okay, I just don't understand. I mean, I thank God that somebody up in Quebec, okay, had to take a look at it. And maybe now, because Quebec has spoken to you, something will be done. But I mean, I believe some action has to be taken. You know, and I read the response of the city as well. Yes, by and large, there were, I wouldn't say extenuating circumstances, but there were abnormal or unusual circumstances over the COVID period, cutting of expenses, huge surpluses, okay, coming off of the welcome tax with the increased value of land and homes. But all this was expected. I mean, I knew that. I was making comment regularly over the last 3 years. I hope to see some new procedures, okay, because the performance is obviously lacking, because in the very first paragraph of the report, they, and I quote, it was a performance audit on the management of the surpluses. Management of the surpluses and reserves, clearly lacking. So,
thank you.
Good luck. Put some procedures in, and hopefully we can clear that up. And I am all for using the surpluses and reserves inside. I've said before, we are severely lacking on infrastructure, waterways, road work, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell.
That's my 2 cents.
Appreciated. Thank you. Are there any other questions? There are none. Proceeding with Section 3, Urban Planning and Environment. Item 3.1, 78 Oakland, SPAPE, Major Renovations. Reed, do you want to read it?
Sure. Whereas a permit request was received for major renovation works on 78 Oakland, whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve the SPAPE in support of the permit request, this motion is to approve the SPAPE of the permit request on 78 Oakland.
Section 3, Urbanisme et Environnement, le point 3.1, 78 Oakland, pardon, PIA rénovation majeure. Alors, considérant qu'une demande de permis a été reçue pour des travaux de rénovation majeure pour le 78 Oakland et que la recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme d'approuver le PIA relatif à la demande, la présente résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 78 Oakland.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.2, 711 Main, SPAPE, accessory building. Whereas a permit, sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Whereas a permit request was received for an accessory building at 711 Main, the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE and the unfulfilled criteria are as follows. To ensure that exterior finished materials are in harmony with the architecture of the building and that their number be reduced to a minimum. Preserve the building's architecture and rural character with landscaping and features such as fences and signs that enhance the building. And finally, to ensure that lots are landscaped and integrate well with the character of the scenic route. This motion is to refuse the SPAPE of the permit request for 711 Main for an accessory building.
3.2, 711 Main, PIA, bâtiment accessoire. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour un bâtiment accessoire pour le 711 Main. La recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme est de refuser à cause des critères non remplis, soit assurer que les matériaux de revêtement extérieur cadrent bien avec l'architecture du bâtiment et que leurs normes soient réduites au minimum, préserver une architecture des bâtiments et le caractère champêtre avec des aménagements paysagers et des éléments tels les clôtures et les enseignes mettant en valeur le bâtiment, et assurer que les terrains soient pourvus d'aménagements paysagers s'intégrant bien au caractère du chemin de paysage. La présente résolution vise à refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 711 rue Maine.
Merci. Do we have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Reed, do you want to give a few details on the refusal? Just, do you want me to read off my notes?
Sure.
Shall I start and you'll complete?
Yes.
All right. So just to give some precisions to the motion that we just, Council just refused. This was for a 4-car garage building along Main, where it was felt that the garage was too close to the neighbors and that the facing, le recouvrement, the material cladding, the cedar shake material should have been used on all 4 fronts. With regards to the character, you need to give a little more articulation on the facade facing main, and also clarify whether there are windows on the man door facing main, as on one drawing there seems to be, and on another there are not. Also, by moving the building closer to main, it is felt that this would cut less trees, reduce the amount of impervious surface, and also the roof was very long for that type of building, and perhaps adding articulations such as either weather vane or some dormers would give it more character. I believe that those are the notes that I took down. If you had anything to add.
No, that sounds about right. I think that matches the discussions.
All right. So in giving these sort of guidelines or suggestions, it's also to help the technical staff to be able to guide the permit requester, in a sense, in their reiteration or their adjustment of their drawings when they bring it back to the town. Moving now to section 3.3, or sorry, item 3.3, 72 Cameron, the SPAPE sign. Read.
Certificate of authorization request was received for a sign at 72 Cameron, and the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve the SPAPE. So this motion is to approve the SPAPE of the certificate of authorization request with the following recommendation: that the color of the bulbs lighting the sign and the building be replaced by warm white bulbs.
3.3, le 72 Cameron, le PIA, une enseigne. Alors, une demande de certificat d'autorisation a été reçue pour une enseigne au 72 Cameron. La recommandation unanime du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA. La résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de certificat d'autorisation pour le 72 Cameron avec la recommandation suivante: que la couleur des ampoules éclairant l'enseigne et le bâtiment soit remplacée par des ampoules éclairant de couleur blanchot.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So again, this was the commercial sign for Portobello. It had been presented in January and turned down as the request submitted did not match the sign that had been already installed, and we did not want to have to force the owner to change the sign that was already in place. So that covers that. Item 3.4, appointment demolition committee members. Whereas the mandate of the members of the Demolition Committee expires on February 29th of 2024, this resolution is that the following councillors be named members of the Demolition Committee for a term of 1 year, beginning on March 1st of 2024, and these are the same as they were last year, and I believe the year prior. So Councillor Douglas Smith, Councillor Reed Thompson, and Councillor Mark Gray, and that Councillor Douglas Smith be named president, and that Councillor Darren Legault and myself, Mayor Chloe Hutchison, be named as substitute members.
3.4, nomination membre du comité de démolition. Alors, le mandat de membre du comité de démolition vient à terme le 29 février 2024. La présente résolution vise à ce que les conseillers suivants soient nommés membres du comité de démolition pour un terme d'1 an qui débute le 1er mars 2024. Le conseiller Douglas Smith, le conseiller Reed Thompson et le conseiller Mark Gray. Que le conseiller Douglas Smith soit nommé président et que le conseiller Darren Legault et que la mairesse Chloé Hutchison soient nommés membres substituts.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. It's kind of hard when we're all named on the resolution. Eh?
Benoit dodged it.
Again, for the third year.
Benoit, come on.
It's all good.
We've only seen 4 demolition requests to date over 2 years and a little bit. All right. So thank you, Doug, for taking this on once again. Much appreciated. Item 3.5, renewal of the Town Planning Advisory Committee. Whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee has been established in accordance to Section 146 of the Act respecting land use, planning, and development, whereas the mandate of Yuri Rodrigue expired on March 1st of 2024, this resolution is to renew Yuri Rodrigue's mandate as citizen member for a term of 2 years, beginning on March 1st of 2024.
3.5, renouvellement membre du comité consultatif d'urbanisme. Un comité consultatif d'urbanisme a été constitué en vertu de l'article 146 de la Loi sur l'aménagement et l'urbanisme. Le mandat de Yuri Rodrigue est échu depuis le 1er mars 2024. La présente résolution vise à renouveler le mandat de Yuri Rodrigue à titre de membre citoyen pour un terme de 2 ans qui débute le 1er mars 2024.
Merci. Do I have a mover to my right? Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.6, amendment to Resolution R 2023-01-05, awarding of contract by mutual agreement for the Urban Planning Support Phase 3. Whereas the Town of Hudson adopted bylaw 525.3-2021, modifying the planning program and interim control bylaw 750-2022 during the special meeting of the Municipal Council of February 24th of 2022. Whereas the Town Council awarded a contract for urban planning support to proceed with the modifications of the urban planning bylaws in order to achieve the objectives of protection of the natural environments established during the modification of the planning program in February of 2022 to the firm Paris Plus Associés Inc., and it is necessary to modify the maximum amount. This resolution is to modify Resolution R 2023-01-05, awarding a contract for urban planning support for a maximum amount of $40,000 before taxes.
3.6, modification à la résolution R 2023-01-05, octroi de contrat de gré à gré, support urbanistique, phase 3. La Ville de Hudson a adopté le règlement 523.3-2021, modifiant le plan d'urbanisme et le règlement 750-2022 de contrôle intérimaire lors de la séance extraordinaire du Conseil municipal du 24 février 2022. Le Conseil municipal a octroyé un contrat pour du support urbanistique afin de procéder à la modification des règlements d'urbanisme dans le but d'atteindre les objectifs de protection des milieux naturels établis lors de la modification du plan d'urbanisme en février 2022 à la firme Paris Plus Associés et qu'il y a lieu de modifier le montant maximal. Donc, la présente résolution vise à modifier la résolution R 2023-01-05, octroyant un contrat pour du support urbanistique pour un montant maximal de 40 000 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, supported by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So for added information, the original amount, if I have it right, is $18,550, and so we have increased it now to $40,000, and this is essentially to make space in that contract for any changes that will be brought to the bylaws following the consultation period. So the adaptations to the proposal made in January to the bylaws. So it's for that extra time. Item 3.7, amendment to resolution R 2023-12-289, awarding of contract Marie-Hélène Gauthier. The Town of Hudson adopted bylaw 523.3-2021, modifying the planning program and interim control bylaw 750-2022 during the special meeting of the Municipal Council of February 24th of 2022. The Town of Hudson must adopt modifications to the existing urban planning bylaws in order to achieve the objectives of protection of the natural environments established during the modification of the planning program in February of 2022. The Town Council awarded a contract to Marie-Hélène Gauthier for support in the public consultation process. The town launched a written consultation process from February 1st to 14th of 2024, and that participation in the consultation was greater than anticipated. This resolution is to modify Resolution R 2023-12-289, awarding a contract for support in the public consultation process to Ms. Marie-Hélène Gauthier for a maximum amount of $14,250 before taxes.
La résolution 3.7, modification à la résolution R 2023-12-289, octroi de contrat Marie-Hélène Gauthier. La Ville d'Hudson a adopté le règlement 525.3-2025, modifiant le plan d'urbanisme et le règlement 750-2022 de contrôle intérimaire lors de la séance extraordinaire du Conseil municipal du 24 février 2022. La Ville d'Hudson doit modifier ses règlements d'urbanisme afin d'atteindre les objectifs de protection des milieux naturels établis lors de la modification du plan d'urbanisme en février 2022. Le Conseil a octroyé un contrat à Marie-Hélène Gauthier pour un accompagnement dans la démarche de consultation publique. La Ville a lancé une période de consultation écrite du 1er au 14 février 2024 et la participation à cette consultation a été plus grande qu'anticipée. La présente résolution vise à modifier la résolution R 2023-12-289, octroyant un contrat pour un accompagnement dans la démarche de consultation publique à Mme Marie-Hélène Gauthier pour la somme maximale de 14 250 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, supported by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So in this case, the original amount was $11,250. So it's for an increase of $3,000. And again, it is where originally we were anticipating 50 written comments, and we have received close to 800. For the next item, I will recuse myself from the table.
Please let the record show that Mayor Chloe Hutchison is recusing herself from this resolution at 7:52, I think. Whereas a parking space exemption request was received for 468 to 470 Main Road, the purpose of this request is to purchase 6 missing parking spaces in order to add a gym in the basement of the building. The applicant must pay an amount of $12,000 to the town, $2,000 per exempted space as required by the town zoning bylaw. This will be either to approve or refuse the request for parking spaces.
Point 3.8, 468, 470 Main, demande d'exemption de stationnement. La mairesse Chloé Hutchison a un intérêt dans la question. Il doit se récuser de la présente résolution à 19h52. Une demande d'exemption en matière de stationnement a été reçue pour le 468-470 rue Maine. La demande a pour but d'acheter 6 cases de stationnement manquantes dans le but d'ajouter une salle d'exercice au sous-sol du bâtiment. Le demandeur doit verser une somme de 12 000 $ à la Ville, soit 2 000 $ par case, exemptée en vertu du règlement du zonage de la Ville. Donc, la présente résolution vise soit à approuver ou refuser la demande d'exemption en matière de stationnement pour le 468-470 rue Maine.
Can I get a mover for this? Mark Gray, can I get a seconder?
Okay, I'll second.
Doug Smith. Is there anyone who is against this resolution? Please raise your hand.
Sorry, point of clarification.
Yes.
Because you read it out as to accept or to refuse. What is the proposition, please?
To approve the parking request, exemption request.
And the question is there anybody
opposed to the parking request? It is refused by majority.
Okay.
Would you guys like a recorded vote?
Don't need one.
Nope. Okay. Let the record show that Mayor Chloe Hutchison returns to the table at 7:54 p.m.
Thank you, Reed. Item 3.9, renewal, collection, transportation, and disposal of household waste and bulk items. Whereas a contract for the collection, transportation, and disposal of household waste, bulky waste, and fall leaves to the company Robert Daou et Fils on April 6th of 2020. Whereas the contract is for a period of 3 years, which ends on May 31st of 2023. Whereas the contract provides for the possibility of renewal for the years 2023, 2024, and also for 2024 and 2025. This resolution is to renew the contract for the collection, transportation, and disposal of household waste and bulk items without the leaf collection to Robert Daou et Fils for a 1-year period from May 1st of 2024 to April 30th of 2025 for the amount of $321,608.
3.9, renouvellement, contrat de collecte, transport et disposition des déchets domestiques et volumineux. En considérant un contrat pour la collecte, le transport et la disposition des déchets domestiques, des déchets volumineux et des feuilles d'automne à la compagnie Robert Daou et Fils le 6 avril 2020, le contrat a une durée de 3 ans qui se terminait le 31 mai 2023. Le contrat prévoit la possibilité de renouvellement pour les années 2023-2024 et 2024-2025. Alors, la présente résolution vise à renouveler le contrat de collecte, transport et disposition des déchets domestiques et volumineux sans le volet de collecte de feuilles avec Robert Daou et Fils pour une durée d'1 an, soit du 1er mai 2024 au 30 avril 2025, pour un montant de 321 608.
Merci. Do we have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. Item 3.10, tabling of the minutes for Town Planning Advisory Committee, so TPAC, for the month of December of 2023. Members of Council take note of the tabling of Town Planning Advisory Committee minutes. For item 3.11, tabling of the minutes for Town Planning Advisory Committee, so TPAC, for the month of January of 2024, where the members of Council take note of the tabling of the Town Planning Advisory Committee minutes. Je vais vous laisser faire en français les deux.
3.10, dépôt du procès-verbal du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme décembre 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU. 3.11, dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU pour janvier 2024. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du procès-verbal du CCU.
Si vous voulez faire l'item 3.12, puis je compte.
3.12?
Oui, puis je le ferai après vous.
Vous allez le faire après?
Oui.
Dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis en janvier 2024. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis du service de l'urbanisme.
Excellent. So item 3.12, as Ms. McKercher just said, this is for the tabling of the monthly report for permits issued in January of 2024, where members of Council take note of the tabling of the monthly report for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department. Moving on to Section 4, Administration and Finance, Item 4.1, Approval of Disbursements for February of 2024. This resolution is to approve the following disbursements as of February 29th of 2024. The subtotal of payments is $1,604,878.24 with 3 payrolls, so payroll 2, payroll 3, payroll 4. The total of accounts paid is $2,013,140.39.
Section 4, Administration et Finances. 4.1, Approbation des paiements pour février 2024. Alors, la présente résolution vise à approuver le paiement des comptes au 21 février 2024. Le sous-total des paiements, 1 604 878,24 sous, avec 3 paies, la paie 02, 03, 04. Le total des comptes payés, 2 013 140,39 sous.
This was an unusual month. It started on a payday and finished on a payday, and it was a leap year, so we had 29 days in February. Do I have a proposer? Reed Thompson, appuyé par Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.2, Clic Secure Authorizations. Whereas it is necessary for financial activities, purposes with Revenue Quebec and government departments to use the CLEK Secure protected service. This resolution is that Mrs. Marie-Jacinthe Roberge, Assistant Treasurer by interim, and Mrs. Cathy Laviolette, Human Resources Coordinator, be and are hereby appointed as authorized representatives and are authorized to consult the applicant's file and to act in the name and on behalf of the town of Hudson. There are several other items as well. This resolution is to repeal Resolution R 2023-02-32.
4.2, autorisation CLEK Sécure. En considérant qu'il est nécessaire, dans le cadre des activités financières avec Revenu Québec et les ministères, d'utiliser le service sécurisé CLEK Sécure, la présente résolution vise à nommer Mme Marie-Jacinthe Roberge, trésorière adjointe par intérim, et Mme Cathy Laviolette, coordonnatrice des ressources humaines, qu'elles soient et sont par les présentes nommées comme représentantes et autorisées à consulter le dossier de l'entreprise et agir au nom et pour le compte de la Ville de Hudson, et d'abroger la résolution R 2023-02-32.
Are there a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.3, tabling of 2023 activities report of the Treasurer for the 2021 elections. The members of the Council take note of the tabling of the activities report to Elections Québec filed by the Treasurer for 2023.
4.3, dépose du rapport d'activité 2023 du trésorier pour les élections 2021. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport des activités à Élections Québec déposé par le trésorier pour l'année 2023.
Merci. Moving on to Section 5, Town Clerk. Item 5.1, Treehouse Child Care Center. This is for a rent adjustment. On February 14th of 2001, the town of Hudson signed an emphyteutic lease. Whereas Section 10 of the consideration for the transfer indicates that the emphyteutic lease is renewed under the same conditions from July 1st, 2010 to the end. This resolution is that the amount of rent payable as of November 6th of 2023 be adjusted annually as indicated in the emphyteutic lease. The Finance Department be mandated to update the annual rent and to produce and transmit the required statements of accounts.
Section 5, greffe, 5.1, CPE Maison dans l'Arbre, ajustement du loyer. Le 14 février 2001, la Ville d'Hudson a signé un bail amphithéotique. La section 10 de la contrepartie de la cession indique que le bail amphithéotique est renouvelé aux mêmes conditions à compter du 1er juillet 2010 jusqu'à la fin. La présente résolution vise à ce que le montant du loyer payable à compter du 6 novembre 2023 soit ajusté annuellement tel qu'indiqué dans le bail amphithéotique et que le service des finances soit mandaté à mettre à jour le loyer annuel et à produire et à transmettre les états de compte requis.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. 5.2, legal assistance mandate for lots 6439827 and 6439828 Cadastre of Quebec. Considering the numerous violations of municipal bylaws observed on lots 6439827 and 6439828, considering the numerous violations observed on these lots, I'll name them again, 6439827 and 6439828, contrary to the transitional bylaw respecting floodplain, shoreline, and riverbank management, this resolution is that the Municipal Council mandate and instruct the law firm Dunton Rainville SENCRL to undertake legal proceedings against the owners and occupants of lots 6439827 and 6439828 in order to put a stop to violations of zoning bylaw 526, permits and certificates bylaw 529, 9, and Bylaw 571 with regards to site planning and architectural integration programs, so the SPAPE, as well as the Transitional Flood Zones Management Plan, Shoreline, and Littoral Zones, and that all that has been done by this firm since 2016 in connection with this mandate, including but not limited to the legal proceedings in Superior Court, also be ratified and expressly approved. En français.
5.2, mandat assistance juridique, lot 6-439-827 et 6-439-828 du Cadastre du Québec. Les nombreuses violations à la réglementation municipale observées sur les lots 6-439-827 et 6-439-828. Les nombreuses violations observées sur les lots à l'encontre du régime transitoire de gestion des zones inondables des rives et du littoral. La présente résolution vise à ce que le conseil municipal mandate et donne instruction au cabinet d'Anton-Rainville afin que soient entrepris contre les propriétaires et occupants des dits lots des procédures judiciaires afin de faire cesser les violations au règlement de zonage, au règlement sur les permis et certificats et au règlement concernant les plans d'implantation et d'intégration architecturale, ainsi qu'au régime transitoire de gestion des zones inondables des rives et du littoral, et que soit également ratifié, expressément approuvé tout ce qui a été fait par ce cabinet depuis 2016, en lien avec ce mandat notamment, mais non limitativement, les procédures judiciaires dans le dossier de la Cour supérieure.
If I may, point of clarification, are we allowed to say what the address of these properties is?
I don't think we need to. You can do a research online if you'd like. Do you know the address?
I was just asking to have it, I was just asking for clarification because...
Est-ce qu'on connaît l'adresse? Moi, je la connais pas. I don't know it off by heart.
Okay, thank you. No, that's fine. Thanks.
All right. Is there a mover for this resolution? Benoit Blais, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? It is noted. It is carried by majority. Item 5.3, authorization to sign renewal of intermunicipal agreement to allow reciprocal and free access to municipal parks. Whereas the town of St. Lazare wants to offer free access to the residents of Hudson to its nature park, Les Forestiers de Saint-Lazare, whereas the town of Hudson wants to offer free access to Jack Layton Park to the Saint-Lazare residents, as well as free parking near the park. This resolution is to enter into the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Saint-Lazare to allow reciprocal and free access to the municipal parks for the period from April 1st of 2024 to March 31st of 2025. En français.
Le 5.3, autorisation de signature, renouvellement, entente intermunicipale aux fins de permettre des accès réciproques et sans frais à des parcs municipaux. La Ville de Saint-Lazare souhaite offrir sans frais aux résidents d'Hudson l'usage de son parc nature, les Forestiers de Saint-Lazare. La Ville d'Hudson souhaite offrir l'accès gratuit des résidents de Saint-Lazare au parc Jack Layton, ainsi que le stationnement gratuit aux abords du parc. La présente résolution vise à conclure l'entente intermunicipale avec la Ville de Saint-Lazare aux fins de permettre des accès réciproques et sans frais à des parcs municipaux pour la période du 1er avril 2024 au 31 mars 2025.
Do I have a mover for this resolution? Reed Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 5.4, tabling the performance audit report, management of the surplus earnings and reserves, Commission municipale du Québec. The members of council take note of the tabling of the performance audit report, management of surplus earnings and reserves from the Commission municipale du Québec.
5.4, dépôt, rapport d'audit de performance, gestion des excédents et des réserves, Commission municipale du Québec. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport d'audit de performance, gestion des excédents et des réserves de la Commission municipale du Québec.
Merci. So as asked earlier by Mr. Farrell, there is an engagement on the part of the town, as all towns who receive an audit by the CMQ, to put together an action plan. And so the CMQ provides the town with guideline, sort of a framework exactly. And the town then will propose an action plan that is tailored to their capacity and to their portrait. And when approved by the CMQ, then the CMQ will do sort of reviews, annual reviews, and I think it's a 5-year engagement. So 3 years engagement. So that's how we ensure that there will be improvements and better procedures put in place. We were aware of some shortcomings in our controls and parameters. We've been working on those for the last 10 years, as you know, and it is hard when we've gone through, I forget how many trésoriers, Marie-Jacinthe? It's almost as many DGs, huh? Because I've gone through 3 DGs and I've gone through 3 treasurers just in 2 years, and it is our hope that we will continue to attract talent to Hudson. It is difficult under the present shortage of manpower, but also Hudson is not an easy place, right? We are very demanding as a council, and we're also very demanding as a population, which is good. It is good. We certainly want quality, and we have an excellent Director General in place, and I have full confidence that we will find the right person to serve by the side of Marie-Jacinthe and be your tool and your best ally. I know you're looking forward to it, so thank you. Item 5.5, tabling of the report on contractual management of 2023. So as required each year, members of council take note of the tabling of the 2023 report on contractual management, and I believe we must post that on our town's website as well, so you will see that there as well. En français.
5.5, dépôt rapport sur la gestion contractuelle 2023. Les membres du Conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport de gestion contractuelle de 2023.
Est-ce que je vous avais laissé faire en français l'item 5.4? Je ne me souviens plus. Non? Donc 5.4, il paraît qu'on a sauté par-dessus.
Oh, 5.4?
J'ai trop parlé.
Je l'ai fait? Oui. Oui, tu l'as fait? Oui.
Oui, tu l'as fait?
Oui.
Ouais, elle l'a fait. Bon.
Oui.
Section 6, Human Resources. Item 6.1, upgrading of managers' remuneration scales. Considering that a review was conducted using the municipal executive compensation reports prepared by the Carrefour du Capital Humain of the UMQ, considering that it is also necessary to consider the importance of the work of certain managers for the continuity of the town's operations outside regular business hours, this resolution is to adjust the remuneration of said managers according to the comparable job title applicable to them and to index it by 3.5%, the whole retroactive to January 1st of 2024, and to pay monetary contributions to managers who ensure continuity of operations outside regular business hours.
La section 6, ressources humaines. 6.1, mise à niveau des échelles salariales des gestionnaires, considérant qu'une étude a été conduite à l'aide des rapports de la rémunération des cadres municipaux établis par le Carrefour du capital humain de l'UMQ, qu'il est également nécessaire de considérer l'importance du travail de certains gestionnaires pour la continuité des opérations de la Ville en dehors des heures ouvrables régulières. La présente résolution vise à ajuster la rémunération des 10 gestionnaires selon le type d'emploi comparable qui leur est applicable et d'indexer celle-ci de 3,5 %, le tout rétroactivement au 1er janvier 2024, et de verser les contributions monétaires aux gestionnaires ayant assumé la continuité des opérations en dehors des heures régulières.
I have a mover, Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? It is carried unanimously. Item 6.2, release of employee 967, whereas suspension for investigation and dismissal of employee 967. Following this resolution, the employee filed a grievance to contest that person's dismissal on November 6th of 2023. This resolution is to ratify the draft settlement agreement and release proposed by the Director General concerning grievance 2023-017 and to mandate the Director General to finalize and sign the settlement agreement concerning grievance of 2023-017 in accordance with the draft agreement submitted, if accepted by the Union.
6.2, quittance, employé 967, considérant la suspension pour fin d'enquête et congédiement de l'employé 967, considérant qu'à la suite de cette résolution, l'employé a déposé un grief afin de contester son congédiement intervenu le 6 novembre 2023. La présente résolution vise à entériner le projet d'entente de transaction et quittance proposé par la directrice générale concernant le grief 2023-17 et de mandater la directrice générale pour finaliser et signer l'entente de règlement concernant le grief 2023-017 conformément au projet d'entente soumis si celui-ci est accepté par l'Union.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 6.3, awarding of contract to Loranger Marcoux Lawyers, SENCRL, for the collective agreement for firefighters negotiation mandate. The firefighters' working conditions policy expired on December 31st of 2022. The Town of Hudson's firefighters filed a request for accreditation on January 13th of 2024. This resolution is to mandate the firm Loranger Marcoux Avocat, SENCRL, to represent the employer's interests in the negotiation of a first collective agreement for the Town of Hudson's firefighters at a cost of approximately $25,000 before taxes, the whole in accordance with the offer of service received.
6.3, octroi de contrat à Loranger Marcoux Avocat, SENCRL, mandat de négociation de la Convention collective des pompiers. Considérant que la politique des conditions de travail des employés pompiers est venue à échéance le 31 décembre 2022, que les employés pompiers de la Ville de Hudson ont déposé une requête en accréditation le 13 janvier 2024, la présente résolution vise à mandater la firme Loranger Marcoux Avocat afin de représenter les intérêts de l'employeur dans le cadre de la négociation d'une première convention collective pour les employés pompiers et pompières de la Ville d'Hudson à un coût d'environ 25 000 $ avant taxe, le tout conformément à l'offre de service reçue.
Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution?
Yes, and I'd like to speak to it. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't like the word approximately when we're giving out a contract. And secondly, I would have thought, this being the first time we're doing this, that we probably could have or should have gotten a comparative estimate.
Thank you. We said mover seconded, so it is carried by majority.
Majority or?
Majorité, parce you spoke against it, correct?
Correct.
Correct. So, adopté par majorité. Section 7, Culture and Recreation, item 7.1, St. Patrick's Day March, Main Street closure. Whereas a parade to mark St. Patrick's Day will be held on Saturday, March 16th of 2024 at 1 p.m. on Main Road. This resolution is to approve the closure of Côte Saint-Charles between Ridge and Main Road from 10 a.m. to approximately 3 p.m. on Saturday, March 16th, to approve the closure of Main Road between Côte Saint-Charles and Beach from 12:30 p.m. to approximately 4 p.m. on Saturday, March 16th, thus ensuring the security of spectators and participants, and to approve the closure of the community center parking lot from Friday evening, March 15th, until approximately 4 p.m. on March 16th.
Alors, la section Culture et loisirs, 7.1, Marche de la Saint-Patrick, fermeture de rue. En considérant qu'un défilé pour souligner la Saint-Patrick se tiendra le samedi 16 mars 2024 dès 13h sur la rue Maine, la présente résolution vise à approuver la fermeture de la rue Côte-Saint-Charles entre la rue Ridge et la rue Maine de 10h à environ 15h le samedi 16 mars, d'approuver la fermeture de la rue Maine entre la rue Côte-Saint-Charles et la rue Beach de 12h30 à environ 16h le samedi 16 mars, assurant ainsi la sécurité des spectateurs et des participants, et d'approuver la fermeture du stationnement du centre communautaire du vendredi soir le 15 mars jusqu'à environ 16h le 16 mars.
Merci. Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 8, Public Works. Item 8.1, awarding of contract AO-2024-03-TP, replacement of water heat pumps, water at the fire station. Whereas the geothermal heating system in the fire station requires 2 pumps for the system to function, and 1 pump has come to the end of its operating life, whereas a call for tenders by invitation was issued by the Director of Public Works to 4 firms on January 23rd of 2024, whereas the bids received were opened publicly on February 7th of 2024. The prices, was it one firm only submitted a bid? Thank you. It's over 2 pages, that's why it's complicated. The company that submitted a quote was Colostat Inc., and the price before taxes was for $37,243. So considering that the compliance analysis was carried out, this resolution is to award to Colostat Inc., the only lowest conforming bidder, the contract for replacement of water heat pumps at the fire station for an amount of $37,245 before taxes.
Section 8, Travaux publics. 8.1, octroi de contrat AO 2024-03 TP, remplacement de pompe à chaleur OO à la caserne. En considérant que le système de chauffage géothermique de la caserne de pompiers nécessite 2 pompes pour le fonctionnement du système et qu'une pompe est en fin de vie utile, un appel d'offres sur invitation auprès de 4 entreprises a été lancé par le directeur des travaux publics le 23 janvier 2023. Les soumissions reçues ont été ouvertes publiquement le 7 février. Une seule entreprise a soumissionné, soit Colostat, pour un montant de 37 245 $. Une analyse de conformité des soumissions a été effectuée. La présente résolution vise à octroyer à Colostat, le seul et plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de remplacement de pompe à chaleur eau à la caserne pour un montant de 37 245 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by? Seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? It is carried by majority. Yes?
May I?
Yes.
I'm curious about 2 things. Do we know who was the original supplier of the geothermal system?
Est-ce que tu connais le nom?
Who was the original? Okay. Okay. The other thing is...
Wait. So the question was, do we know the original installer? And the answer from Marie-Jacinthe was that we do know the name. She doesn't have it with us, but the company has gone under since.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, if 4 people came in to request the submission, the tender documents, and we only get 1 back, do we go back to the other 3 and ask why they're not interested in submitting?
It is my understanding that we sent out a request for prices to 4 and only 1 wished. Je ne sais pas si on a été voir pour quelles raisons les 3 autres n'ont pas.
Je pourrais vous revenir, là, mais c'est ça, c'était pas un appel d'offres public où les gens vont télécharger par eux-mêmes. On a, nous, contacté des entreprises spécialisées, puis il y en a une qui a soumissionné.
OK, mais pour moi, c'est important de comprendre pourquoi il y a juste une.
Oui, je comprends, je vais vous revenir.
Parce que c'est difficile pour nous autres, pour moi, anyways, juste donner le OK pour 38 000 sans comparison.
Probablement que Ian a la réponse.
So the question was, do we know why the other 3 did not supply a price? So I just clarified that it was on invitation. Marie-Jacinthe will look into giving Doug the answer. And for Doug, it is important, and for us as well, to understand why we only received 1 and if there was anything that could have been done differently, as it is difficult to provide to grant a contract without further information.
With no comparison. That's
comparison.
always been my thing. Thank
So there. Did I have a mover? Yes, I think I did. Yes, I did. So, and 2 against, thank you. So carried by majority. Item 8.2, Contract AO-2024-06-TP, Hydrovac Service, Termination and Awarding. Whereas the awarding of Contract AO-2024-06-TP, Hydrovac Service, this resolution was R2024-02-46 to a numbered company, 11974904, Canada Inc., also known as HydroCam, whereas the following additional verification by the Public Works Department, it has been determined that the numbered company, also known as HydroCam, does not have the equipment required in the specifications to perform the work, and whereas the second bidder, Service de Rebut Soulange Inc., is compliant in all respects, including the equipment required to perform the work. This resolution is to repeal the contract awarded to the numbered company, also known as HydroCam, by Resolution R 2024-02-46, and to award to Service de Rebut Soulange Inc., the second lowest conforming bidder, the contract for Hydrovac service for an amount of $213,913.75 before taxes.
8.2, contrat appel d'offres 2024-06-TP, service d'une unité hydrovacuum, résiliation et octroi. L'octroi de contrat AO 2024-06-TP, service d'une unité hydrovacuum à la compagnie 1197-4904 Canada Inc. Hydrocan, et que suite à des vérifications supplémentaires suite à l'octroi de ce contrat par le service des travaux publics, il a été constaté que la compagnie 1197-4904 Canada Inc. ne possède pas l'équipement requis dans le devis pour effectuer le travail. Et considérant que le deuxième soumissionnaire, soit Service de Rebut Soulange, est conforme en tout point, incluant l'équipement requis pour effectuer le travail. Donc, la présente résolution vise à abroger le contrat octroyé à 1197-4904 Canada Inc. par la résolution R 2024-02-46 et d'octroyer à Service de Rebut Soulange Incorporé, deuxième plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de service d'une unité hydrovacuum pour un montant de 213 913,75 avant taxes.
Thompson, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 9, Public Safety, Item 9.1, 2023 Annual Activity Report for the MRC-VS Fire Safety Cover Plan activities, whereas the Vaudreuil-Soulanges Regional County Municipality Fire Safety Coverage Plan came into effect on March 7th of 2022, and the 2023 annual report was prepared by Fire Department Director Daniel Leblanc. This resolution is to acknowledge that the 2023 annual report of Fire Safety Cover Plan.
Section 9, Sécurité publique, rapport annuel d'activité 2023 du schéma de couverture de risque de la MRC Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Considérant que le schéma de couverture de risque en matière de sécurité incendie de la MRC-VS est entré en vigueur le 7 mars 2022 et que le rapport annuel 2023 a été préparé par le directeur du service des incendies, Daniel Leblanc, la présente résolution vise à prendre acte du rapport annuel 2023 du schéma de couverture de risque en matière de sécurité incendie.
Mark Gray, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? There are none. It is carried unanimously. So just this is something that is done annually. Once it is tabled by council, it then is transmitted to the MRC, who will then gather all 23 municipalities' reports and forward it to the Ministry of Public Security. Item 9.2, awarding of contract AO-2024-05-SSI for the purchase of combat suits for firefighters, whereas the fire department maintains a replacement program for firefighters' turnout gear. Whereas a call for tender by invitation was issued by the town clerk's office to 3 firms on January 22nd of 2024, whereas the bids received were opened publicly on the 8th of February, whereas only 1 firm submitted a bid, and the company that submitted the quote was Équipement Incendie CMP MAIRESSE Inc., so l'Arsenal, and the price is $27,846 before taxes. Considering that the compliance analysis was carried out, this resolution is to award to Équipement Incendie CMP MAIRESSE Inc., the only lowest conforming bidder, the contract for the purchase of 7 bunker gear for an amount of $27,846. En français.
9.2, octroi de contrat à O 2024-05-SSI, achat d'habits de combat pour pompiers. Considérant que le service incendie tient à jour un programme de remplacement d'habits de combat pour pompiers, un appel d'offres sur invitation auprès de 3 entreprises a été lancé par le bureau du greffe le 22 janvier 2024. Les soumissions reçues ont été ouvertes publiquement. En fait, la soumission a été ouverte publiquement le 8 février. Et c'est Équipement Incendie CMP Manière Incorporé, l'Arsenal, pour un montant de 27 846 $. Considérant l'analyse de conformité de la soumission, la présente résolution vise à octroyer à Équipement Incendie CMP Manière, le seul plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat pour l'achat de 7 habits de combat pour un montant de 27 846 $ avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There's one. Would you like to speak to it? No. I'm guessing it's the same. Same, all right. Donc, c'est adopté à la majorité. So, adopted by majority. Section 10, bylaws, item 10.1, bylaw number 764.1-2024, amending bylaw 764-2023, decreeing the taxation for the 2024 fiscal year. This is for a notice of motion and tabling of the draft. I will need a councillor to give notice of motion, Mark Gray. That he would move or cause to be moved the adoption of the draft bylaw number 764.1-2024, amending bylaw number 764-2023, decreeing the taxation for the 2024 fiscal year. And whereas the purpose of this bylaw is to rectify the special tax in bylaw 581 and the liability that determines the amount due as a transfer forming part of bylaw 764-2023, decreeing the taxation for the 2024 fiscal year. En français.
Alors, section 10, règlement, avis de motion et dépôt du projet, règlement numéro 764-1-2024, visant à modifier le règlement 764-2023, décrétant l'imposition des taxes pour l'exercice financier 2024. Le conseiller Mark Gray donne avis de motion de l'intention de soumettre pour adoption le projet de règlement numéro 764.1-2024 visant à modifier le règlement numéro 764-2023 décrétant l'imposition des taxes pour l'exercice financier 2024. L'objet de ce règlement est de rectifier la taxe spéciale du règlement 581 et l'assujettissement qui détermine le montant dû à titre de mutation faisant partie du règlement 764-2023 décrétant l'imposition des taxes pour l'exercice financier 2024.
Mover. Mark Gray, second. No, on ne fait pas. It's a notice. Okay. I will explain briefly what this is about. So this is sectorial tax for the area of Kiltivan, where there was a refinancing of the loan that was done last year and recalculation of the amounts. So those residents are moving from what was calculated to be $932.50 to be added to their tax for this year. And after recalculation, it is actually close to $200 lower. So there was a meeting that was held by one of the people working for us, a specialist in taxation, who went and met with them and redid the calculations. So these are the types of corrections and items that are being found as we are combing through the records for the last few years. So they are satisfied. They've had a couple of meetings with the town, and I've received positive feedback from them. So you will see that next month there will be...
That was a extension of the sewage line.
Correct.
Bylaw 581. Okay.
Or connecting it to the urban sector. Yeah, all right. So next month, le mois prochain, on va voir l'adoption finale. We'll see the final adoption. Section 11, new business. Any new business? There is none. So we are now moving to the second question period. I remind you that we will alternate between the two.
Anyone online?
There is, oh. June Penny, please go ahead. Sorry. You can speak now, June. I can't hear you. I see your microphone is working, but I don't hear you. Okay, so we will go with a question in the room, but June, just give us a few minutes, we'll come back to you. Ah, oui. I received a written question that I'll address at the end. That's why I'm being reminded. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello again. Okay, let's go back to the CMQ audit report. Let me read specifically an English translation coming from their recommendations. Specifically, the management of surpluses and reserves are not well integrated into the town's planning and in particular of its capital investments. The town has not established any framework to manage the surplus and reserves, and their conclusion is that the legal and regulatory requirements have not been met, and you're invited to produce an action plan to put in place. There are recommendations in the report. I'd just like to know, has this problem ever been surfaced to you by the auditors?
Not to my knowledge.
Who have been here for many years?
No.
Okay.
But I don't believe this is the type, this is more procedural and best practices. They are really making sure that the amounts are in the right reporting
in the right
line
box,
items.
yes.
So
but
they're not reviewing the same items.
I agree theoretically, but when they see such a surge in a surplus, reserved or unreserved, that's a red flag to an auditor. I've been there, done that, you know? So I'm just asking, they've never brought this to your attention?
When we met with them last year, there were, remember, liquidity. You had raised liquidity, so I asked them whether we were within normal range. Surpluses also, and they said, yes, it's a strong surplus, but many municipalities are in the same situation, and as long as we are not using it for operational costs, but for investments, that we are on the right track.
Okay. I see in the payments approved this month that there's payments to Robert Half. I presume that's for the treasurer.
No, it is not for the treasurer.
Okay, well, anyways, for the treasurer, I want to know what's the status, what's an update on the treasurer?
Est-ce que tu voudrais donner...
Non, on est en processus d'entrevue présentement.
So this week, last Monday, there was...
What did you say?
At the beginning of last week, there was an interview with one of the candidates. I believe there's 2 more that have been received. And I believe this week there's going to be...
3 ou 4, peut-être qu'il y en a d'autres qui sont rentrés, là.
So 4 candidacies have been received. 1 was met last week, very promising person. And this week they're meeting with the second one, and the process continues.
So is there an executive recruiter also on this file as well, for the treasurer?
Not at this time, as far as I know.
No? Okay. Could I ask then who determined the qualifications for the candidates when you were advertising? Because I've looked online for the description of who is the ideal candidate, which is a very wide scope of people that can apply for this.
So the town director is, the director general is in charge of the process and has established the type of
So
person.
she established who the treasurer was going to be under her?
Correct.
Okay, but she doesn't have any financial qualifications herself, is that right?
She is director general. And
She's DG, but she's not finance qualified or experienced. Am I correct in saying that?
I wouldn't expect that most director generals in towns are.
I agree. I'm just asking who determined that.
I'm not
Fine.
sure where you are going with this question.
Well, no, when I looked at it, it seemed like a very, very wide spectrum of individuals could
Correct.
apply.
As one of Marie-Jacinthe's lovely descriptions, that she says, I'm not looking for an accountant with brown socks. I am looking for someone who comes in with creativity, with strength and courage, and who is going to bring experience and look to bring better procedures and more modern practices to the team. And this requires for us to be thinking outside of the box. And I appreciate that kind of candor and that kind of outlook.
Well, good. I hope to.
Yeah, what color socks? Yeah.
I beg your pardon?
Brown?
What are the color of your socks?
Multicolored.
They're not brown.
You're not brown.
We're not all dull, you know, the accountants. Thank you.
You're welcome. June Penny, please go ahead.
Chloe. Oh, did you get her?
C'est supposé fonctionner.
White says at home she can hear June.
Yeah, we should be able to hear her now. Yeah, very good.
They can hear her.
Please go ahead, June. No, so I think online, je l'entends plus ou moins tout petit, like I can hear a little whisper in the microphone. So this is obviously a technical connection within the room, so please come ahead, Caroline. We will fix this.
Hi again. Chloe, I'm just going to ask you on my behalf and my background in on approvisionnement to say thank you to Doug Smith for constantly bringing up the fact that it's very frustrating when you're not giving very many options, but you're having to award contracts when there's only one supplier coming forward. In the last one that you did award, Chloe, though, you did say you were awarding it to the lowest conforming bid.
Only.
I think you'd have to take out lowest. It would just be the only conforming bid. On the subject of approvisionnement, ça m'oblige de vous demander, puisque nous avons plusieurs contrats que nous donnons à la compagnie de Robert Daou, is there a reason why we're not looking for synergies and looking to see if we can combine and get a better rate for everything that we're actually contracting out to them?
That's an interesting question. So it is Robert Daou is local. So most of the time we will get better rates just for shortness of distance. And as we know, fuel costs are certainly a big part of these contracts. Most towns, most municipalities are actually dealing with Daou as well after going out to tender because, again, he comes in much lower or at least lower than others. But that would be an interesting question to see whether we can do further regroupments with other services, not just breaking up his contracts per type of service.
Oui, certainement. Oui, oui.
I'm sure that Marie-Jacinthe and Ian Delgarno will look into this. And with regards to single bidders, this is an ongoing process. And as we've already said, if we were to stop the wheel every time we only have one, there would be several contracts that wouldn't be awarded and work that would back up even further than it already is. So we're sort of stuck in a situation. But indeed, there may be other reasons, and it would be nice to understand them so that maybe we can tailor and cater to them.
Right. With regards to the 8 million, the last census that was done was 2021. I guess we're not due for the next one until, well, 5 years out. I don't know how many transactions, how many residences turned over through the pandemic. There have certainly been a number, judging by the amount of welcome tax that the town has collected. It would be interesting to do a mini census of our own to know who our residents are and what they actually require, what they want, not what they had 30 years ago and why don't we have it today, but what do we need going forward so that when it comes to infrastructure, we have a better idea of best to suit the needs of our existing and population going forward.
So we will be going through that with the parks plan as well, since there will be consultations on that. We're going through consultations with the cultural policy as well, or we have, with the help of the Hudson Arts and Culture Council, done a survey on cultural offerings and what the expectations and interests of the population are. But as several councillors have asked since the start of this term, it's to actually do a strategic plan. It's not that we haven't heard you, and I certainly would like one as well. I think Marie-Jacinthe would like one as well, but our desk at this point is so incredibly full, just keeping up with what is here, filling positions that are pretty strategic in the organization, but also wanting to get to immediate answers with regards to parks. And starting on that, I believe that at the beginning of next term, whoever's in place, that should be on the priority list starting, and hopefully we would be staying with the same Director General so that that wouldn't be part of the slowdown, which certainly was part of our slowdown. So hopefully stabilizing foundations, and we will get to that and have all of the planning tools in place that will help Council make the best decisions.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, June, let's try this one more time.
It's supposed to be work.
Yeah, no, I see your microphone. You could try and call me. Or chat. Est-ce que vous l'entendez? No?
No. I think we have a problem with the Zoom today. We are sorry of that.
So there seems to be a problem.
I know what. Can you ask your wife to ask the question?
June, can you text me your question? Or put it in the chat? Est-ce qu'on voit le chat?
No, the chat is not active.
Kate, June, I'm giving you my personal cell phone number. Here we go. 514.
I don't think you
It's online already. It's online already. 806 8952. Or you can send it to me by messenger. Oh. Is that you? Okay, I'm putting you on speaker. Go ahead.
I figured that would be better. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to 5.2, which was the...
Legal assistant mandate.
Yeah, I'm going to try and turn off my iPad so it doesn't feed back to you. Yeah, so what were these addresses? You mentioned that you don't really know where they are, but what...
I know where they are. I don't know their address by heart. So they're along Main, and they are across from Royal View Street? Is it Royal Oak?
Okay.
But I don't know the number off heart of the address. I only know the lot numbers.
But what was the whole situation about? What was it that was happening? The legal assistance mandate, is that for the guy who built the rock wall that wasn't meant to be built because it's in a flood zone?
So this is a file that has been legalized, so we can't go into further details, but this is a file that has been in the town's hands since 2016 and has been ongoing, so this is just formalizing that the mandate is in the hands of that lawyer, just for records purposes. There is no change, or it really is just administrative. I was going to say academic, but it's administrative for sure.
I know exactly which property you're talking about, so we'll cross that one off the list, not because I don't know how much time we have here, because now when my phone died and now I'm back on my iPad. I wanted to go back to Doug's concern about one bids being offered. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a little concerned as well. When there's only one bid that's being considered, it's kind of like because I've also put in bids for town contracts before, but it's when there's only one bid being offered, like you're not comparing it to any other baseline.
Correct.
And for instance, right now, I know for a fact, and I'm not saying this because I want the town contract, but I know for a fact that I, having done the town gardens for many, 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 many years, I could be doing the town gardens, supplying much more color and beauty than what we're getting now. But because you only have one bidder, you have no one else to compare it to. And I could be doing it for less than what the guy that's doing it now. But because of your specifications in your contract, I choose not to give you a bid. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh,
It's
I do. I think that we have this conversation every year. But yes, I do hear you.
You need to have more variety, and it's not just about the gardens, it's about everything. It's about the, you know, the colistat, it's about the waste pickup, it's about everything. You need to have more than one. And I support Doug 110% on his views of you can't go with just one bid. And the town contract, just to give you an example, the town contract for gardens does not need to go to tender. Okay, like it's like less than $25,000. You don't need to go to tender. You just need to find the right people to do it. And it's just like you need to find the right people to collect the garbage. You need to find the right people to do whatever you want to do. But when you only have one bid, they can put that at whatever price they want to put it at, and you're going to accept it because it's the only one, and it's the less one because there's no one else that you're comparing it to.
So I believe that contracts typically, or requests for contract or submittals, go out to invitation when they're below a certain amount, where they don't have to go out to the public SOAO site. And we hear you on, you know, it is important to have multiple bids to compare to, especially if we're comparing apples with apples. But I don't know if we invite more than one person. I know that you're welcome to submit a proposal if you would like. The requirements that are in that service contract are, as you know, in order to ensure that there is adequate insurance and that the town does not become liability for people who may be working individually for themselves.
The point that I'm making, though, Chloe, is that in the past, like, and I don't want to make gardening like a priority here. It applies to all the contracts, but just in terms of the gardening contracts of years past, we didn't need all that specification. We didn't need to be told when to plant and when to weed and how much liability insurance and how much this and how much that. It got overcomplicated, which is why I chose not to bid on those contracts.
I hear you, June. It is important for the town to protect itself in terms of liability insurance, so those are necessary in our world. It is different, I think, working with the public, and I know that we have a difference of opinion here, but we will see if we can at least extend.
But just don't limit yourself to one bidder is what I'm saying.
No, I hear you, and I appreciate that. Thank you, June.
You know, and like given the past performance of Penny Gardens in our town, and I'm not saying this because I want the contract, I don't even know if I'm going to continue on this year because of climate change, lack of employees, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just stating the fact that the town doesn't need to make it so complicated in that aspect of contracts. But in other contracts, although like globally, please don't limit it to one bidder. You need to go out there and get more bids to be able to compare.
I think generally the town does, but again, when there's only one bidder, the difficult decision.
But instead of inviting 3, invite 5, invite 6, invite more. Like you need to invite more people. Like you used to invite 3 people to bid on the town contract, and like 1 or 2 would bid. And now it's come down to one of our companies in our town bids, and he always gets it. So it's like he can charge whatever he wants to charge because he knows that he's the only one that's going to bid on it. You know what I'm saying? It's like
I do know what you're saying. Thank you, June. I think we will have this conversation again next year as well. But thank you. I do hear you. You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye. David?
Demolition? Reed, are you demolition? Yep. You know, I drive by 20 Main Road. It's an absolutely beautiful building. And I'm wondering, you know, what George Allerbeck did with his building. You know, he picked it up, moved it up the hill. We could probably get that building for $1 because we would actually be saving the guy a lot of money. If he's going to destroy it, he's got to haul that stuff away and stuff like that. We could take that building and we could either move it across the street or we could put it on a ferry that Claude has. His, you know, he has his regular ferries, but he also has his whatever. Now, I'm not an expert in moving buildings, but it seems to me that that building could be moved down to Sandy Beach as a dressing area or whatever. It could be moved to Thompson Park as a whatever, both up on the hill and down on the beach. And it'd be a shame not to at least approach the guy and ask him if he'd sell the building to the town for $1 and then figure out if it can be, I'd figure out if it could be moved first. I don't know how quickly he's planning to destroy the building. But again, it's a beautiful one-story cottage. And, you know, it'd be a shame to see him destroy it. So a thought.
I think that the president of the Demolition Committee would like to answer.
Okay.
If I may,
yeah.
I'm familiar with that building. It was insulated with urea formaldehyde insulation. It's actually 3 houses that they built on over the years. And with my background in building, this house is not movable. This house is meta-terre, as they say, in one piece, yeah. Yes. So well, your idea is interesting, but that would then, it would involve the town spending money to try to, and it would be cheaper because there's no historical value to it. It's only 60 years old or pieces of it. So it's not to our financial advantage to do anything with that, and it's also private property.
Well, and that's why if you make the guy an offer to donate, I mean, it's a deal he can't really refuse. And again, and in terms of the fact it's 3 separate buildings, again, I'm not an expert in moving, but that would actually be simplified because all he has to do is move 3 separate sections and then reassemble them together.
No, I understand that, but there's no real value to that building. It's just a lovely little house that was added on to 2 times, and that why would the taxpayers want to have anything to do with a project like that? So, again, an interesting idea, thank you, but
I think recuperating materials is something that we should be looking more and more into, but not necessarily the town, but that there be an enterprise out there because there are a lot of old windows, there's a lot of old doors, there's a lot of, you know, pieces that could be charming to collect. But again, the town is not in the business of doing that, and I agree with Doug Smith's comment. But I hear you, and I think that's really interesting that maybe the town residents should be thinking more and more about this, and it's not just the land and the property that's on it, but how can we reuse what is there, maybe not in the same location.
Yeah, well, and again, I don't, he's got a sign in front, he doesn't want people to drive down his driveway, so I'm hesitant to drive down and talk to him about it, but it would be interesting to at least ask the question, if not for that building, maybe in the future. The other question, Doug, why are you only getting X amount of bids? There's actually, it's interesting, there's a mathematical ratio of why things happen, and you hit the numbers 3 to 1, 4 to 1, and I know friends of mine who do that kind of thing, and it's dead on to what they tell me. So, in getting to June's point, there's a certain point that it's not worth going out for bids. Like, just pick a vendor at X amount of money and agree with it. And the fact that she's local, and she's actually done some really nice jobs off Main Road. But on larger jobs, yeah, that's part of the thing is, you know, they, from what I hear, they get together. There may be 3 or 4 of them, and they go through a folders of different jobs, and they ask, okay, who wants this job? And they assign privately who's going to get that job, and the others agree to do a higher bid. And I don't know how you get around that, to be honest with you. It's just the way it is. And so anyhow, I don't know. We just have to live with that. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Yep.
Something unusual?
Yep.
I have a question.
Oh.
Do I go there and recuse myself, or how does this make this work?
Microphone there, please go ahead.
Last year at the end of the St. Patrick's Day parade, there was a conversation between a couple of us relative to some of the noise, like the artificial musket troop that are firing off these very random and very loud and very disruptive, to the point where it catches everybody off guard. Now that's people maybe with PTSD, that's people with young children, that's people with dogs, that's people with infants. And I was just wondering, do we really need that in the parade?
I believe there was also Darren who had raised the same point, and I
Yes,
believe last council.
I didn't want to say that,
No.
but I just said there was a conversation.
And at last council, I believe.
They use black powder, I believe. They pack the musket and they shoot it. Doug and I spoke earlier today, and it is highly inappropriate. History is history, but I don't think it needs to be played out during the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Yeah.
So it has been raised. I brought it up last year, and I continue to bring it up. I believe that the musket shooters are also one of the big attractions, unfortunately.
Really?
But I did voice that that was one that we did not appreciate and would rather not support. I haven't seen the list of floats, but
I didn't know if we'd taken it anywhere, or if you had.
Yes, no, I have.
Okay.
And I continue to.
Okay,
because
thanks.
I'm also sensitive to noise. Because for, you know, pets and people and so on, and is it really necessary? It
And
is
it was the unpredictability of it. You never knew or where they were and when it was going to happen. And okay, thank you.
To be followed, to be continued. Yes, Helen, please go ahead.
Helen Kurganski, I just have one question I have. I noticed for this month we have $30,000 about in legal fees. Is there a way that we're finding a way to work with our citizens, like in discussions, mediations, to keep our legal fees at a minimum? Was it? I know when I was on council, it was something that we discussed often, and I don't know.
So legal fees are not always just because there is a complaint or a file. Sometimes it's to assist us in improving our bylaws. Sometimes it's to help us in the collective agreements. It has a variety, right, of uses.
No, I realized I was looking at the files, but some of them I recognize still carrying over from when I was a councillor and still carrying on and carrying on.
Well, as you just saw in one of our resolutions.
Ka-chink of taxpayers' money, and we have so many things to fix and to do. So is there?
So we do. We're constantly in that conversation, and there's a couple of files, unfortunately, that are unresolvable only through the courts, maybe more than two. If I add, what would I add to that? I mean, Sandy Beach right now is not on our legal table since it is at the level of the government, but it could come back to us. Those are files that we're going to hold on to and make sure that we continue. I can say that last year, in terms of what we had budgeted, we were under in terms of spending, and by quite a bit. And I'm going to say 100,000. I'm looking at Marie-Jacinthe if she has the same memory as I do, but it was quite substantial. So I think that efforts are being made, and we also have reduced our budget for that line item, expecting that things will get smoother and smoother. We knew the RCI would raise a lot of questions, but actually in terms of spending for that purpose, it's been reasonable, more reasonable than we thought it would be.
And another question, our fire department is going to be unionized, if I understood correctly. Are other municipalities around us, are their fire departments also?
I believe we're the last one to be syndicated. So, je sais pas si ça se dit, syndicated, unionized.
Unionized,
So it's unfortunate. We suspect that it is probably the result of, I don't know if you remember, but at the regional level there was an effort to conduct a regional efficiency, or how to consolidate and become, to consolidate essentially the different services and the equipment and everything else. So I think that probably raised a red flag for some of the firemen, but also speaking with their neighbors, realizing that they're last ones who aren't, they probably were approached by, you know, some union rep and so on. And for us, I mean, it's part of the process at this point, right? We are going through the collective agreement negotiations with current staff, and I mean, it seems to be the way to go. It's not great, but I know that Marie-Jacinthe is certainly learning her way through it, and we're being very well accompanied by L'Oranger Marcoux, a very, very good firm and very good expertise and very sound, I think, accompaniment and understanding of what this means and where the opportunities lie, as much for the employee as for the town. So you have to look at it from the positive side.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for the answers.
I see another hand has gone up online. So Karen Ayers, if you would like to speak or ask your question.
Yeah, just a really quick question, although I don't think the answer is going to be quick at all. It's, I'd like to have an update on the repair, redo of Lakeview.
Lakeview. So Lakeview, if you have been following the file, has been, we have received confirmation from the federal level of government that work up to $2 million and 2.04, I have in my head, of dollars of work are accessible for subsidy. Unfortunately, because it's a new program, there had to be a form created at the provincial level. This came as a surprise to us and slowed down the process. We're not the only municipality in this situation. I believe our neighbors, Vaudreuil-Dorion, are in the same situation. It took a lot of back and forth between the town and the province to get this form prepared appropriately, and then I guess sent back to the federal level. So it's been a lot of administrative work. We were not able to begin the work until this form had been approved, although we had an interested contractor to begin the work, and we were going to start with Selkirk and widening Selkirk and replacing, I believe, some of the drainage along Selkirk. So this, we expect, will move forward as soon as that's been approved, and also there's a segment of Lakeview that has to be approved by the Ministry of Environment because of drainage that will be canalized, if that is the right term, put into conduits. So ditching turned into conduits. So anyway, it's a complex project, and certainly it's not at our level that it is being slowed down. I think we've been waiting for it for about a year and a half is what I'd like to say. I'm told that 2024 is the year where it will take place, but I'm looking at Marie-Jacinthe and she thinks maybe I'm being optimistic. We can't announce anything, but obviously this is one of the projects we'd like to see done before the end of our term.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that Lakeview, like many of Hudson's roads, are in a really sad state of disrepair, but Lakeview being a major secondary artery, it's quite critical that this get done ASAP.
We agree.
Perfect.
You're welcome. Does anyone else want to ask a question? I saw Jay come in. I wanted to thank you for your work with the Hudson Historical Society and the tour that you gave yesterday, Sunday, Saturday? So thank you for your work there, Jay. I think that you're going to insuffler, you're going to blow a lot of positive energy into that much needed society and teach us and remind us of the important quality of the history of our town. So thank you for what you're doing. All right, if there are no other questions, I will move to closing.
Do you not have one to read?
This is why Reed is sitting next to me. I was asked, so we received questions by email as well, and this is a question that I must answer. And so there are two questions. The first one is, why did the town of Hudson change their process for accessing information? So my answer is, to my knowledge, we have not changed the process for accessing information. I'm looking at the town clerk that is sitting to my right, and she is nodding. And to that, I can add that I was very active in asking for public information in my years before being elected, and I have looked online to see what the town is asking, and it is very much in keeping what I used to do in 2015 and 2016, so that is quite a few years ago. So to the best of my knowledge and to the best of the knowledge of Ms. McGurcher here, Hudson has not changed the process for access to information. And this is the same process actually for all municipalities, and it's the same process for accessing regional information. And even in my case, as an elected person and regional councillor, I am sometimes asked to fill in the form and go through formal access to information. It can be frustrating, but it helps to clarify. So question number 2, why do you, and I think that is the town, so why does the town not have a clear email address to access information? So if you look online under that tab, so it's under Services, Town Clerk, there is a section called Access to Information, and there you'll see a full page with full information, and it is clearly mentioned, I'd say about halfway through the page where the email should be sent to, and you can even click on a little envelope that will open up an email and provide you with the GREFFE. So it's GREFFE, G-R-E-F-F-E, at ville.hudson.qc.ca. And on the web page, you'll also see what needs to be included, and what needs to be there is obviously to be as clear as possible with what is the information that you're looking for, the address, your information, and your signature, which could just be an email signature. And I believe that completes. But try to be as precise as possible, naming the document if you can. And again, if you can sort of frame it within a time frame, say you would like the document from this year, it will certainly reduce the amount of research. Otherwise, our town employees have to go through extensive archives to find the full, the full gamut. So I hope this answers your question.
Clarification?
Yes.
Who's asking the question?
The person asking the question is Diana Sanderson, a resident of Hudson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So if this completes the second question period, I will move to section 12, adjournment of the meeting. I will need a mover, so Doug Smith, seconded by Mark Gray. Are there any objections to this resolution? No? So that the meeting be adjourned at 9:12 p.m. et en français. Est-ce qu'on a besoin de le faire en français? Non? Ça va?
Oui, alors, levée de l'Assemblée proposée par le conseiller Smith, appuyé par le conseiller Gray, de lever l'Assemblée à 21h12.
Parfait. It is carried unanimously. Merci beaucoup.